Hey guys, Kiwi here, and today I have some really intense news to share that I'd love to hear your opinions on. But unless you have literally no idea what's going on in world news, you'd be well aware of the movement for Britain to leave the EU, with tensions rising throughout Europe over various political situations. A seemingly vast majority of them are being based around racial and cultural issues. The world watched and waited with bated breath to see what decision the British populace would make. Independence, or go down with the rest of the team? Well, today they finally decided, and the people voted yes to leave. Awesome? Awesome. But why did they want to leave in the first place? And exactly how big of a decision was this? While many people will toil on about economics, which is a factor, to me, what seemed to have the most effect on the decision was two main points. The first point being the failure of the EU to uphold Britain's standard of democracy, and the second, a far more touchy point, is immigration. Or infiltration, I suppose you could call it, in the light of recent blatant attempt in the Middle Eastern cultural insemination, but I digress. The EU's free movement regulations, which would most likely take effect on Britain in around 2020 had they stayed, would have opened the door for upwards of 500,000 immigrants to move in without the British people's consent. The important thing to note here is that the rules would allow, and seem to put emphasis on, migrants not only from Europe, but North Africa and, most controversially, the Middle East, home of everybody's favorite hit series, New Year's in Germany, The Humpening. This incompatible culture being fluxed in at such a speed at which people migrating don't have time to adjust and assimilate to the new culture around them that they're supposedly joining is a large factor for creating cultural ghettos. An example being the Chinatown segment of many major cities, usually filled with almost exclusively low-income housing and oftentimes filled with citizens that don't even speak their country's native tongue. Violence and other crime is typically higher in these areas, such as the oh-so-lovely no-go zones in France. The governments of many of the countries affected responses did not help to put out the fire of the people's revolt, such as the German government purposely and blatantly lying about and skewing crime statistics from Middle Eastern immigrants to make them seem harmless. However, facing the possible fates that many Europeans have faced and fallen to before them, Britain has decided to pull out and avoid these regulations, and possibly avoid the death of British culture as a whole in the long run. As far as the economic costs of this, they could be majorly reduced by no longer mass importing people. Migration Watch UK calculated that it is costing native UK citizens nearly £43 million a day to import immigrants, not including the rising costs of housing and the declining quality of education as resources are spread thinner to encompass not only the larger mass of students, but the lack of the ability to speak English, as noted earlier. Campaigners on the Remain side felt that this was racist. However, in my opinion, pulling out in order to stop a group of people that come from a statistically violent, intolerant, radical, and racist culture from entering your country too quickly for them to become assimilated to the British way of life may have been the only smart move Britain could have possibly made for the long term. But only time will tell. Now, for the first time in decades, Britain again tastes freedom. I can only imagine people from the Brexit party have only one thing left to say to the EU beyond trade negotiations.
Oh, man! That's some good stuff. It's a UK vintage, pretty recent, June 23rd, 2016. Tasty stuff. This is sort of an amalgam of the bloody tears of brain-dead Brussels busybody bureaucrats who might now actually have to go and get real jobs. Hey, Europe, want some?
As a side note, I would really like to just thank you guys for all the support you've given me. As a channel with literally that had only one video before yesterday's, I still received 387 views on it and 40 thumbs up, 0 dislikes. That is fucking awesome, and I'm really proud of all the people who left supportive comments, and I just really appreciate everything. I'm amazed that I got as much of this message out as I did with a channel that's so small. But anyways, as always, take care, guys.